everyone. Thank you so much. Can I know your name? Who wished me?
Yep. This is OJ Sharma.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much.
Most welcome, ma'am. I hope your day is going quite good, and
Yes,
thanks a
it's
lot for
going
your
great.
services.
Thank you. So I would request all of you to switch on your cameras.
Also, ma'am, we are waiting for a couple of more participants to join, so we'll
Yeah,
be
that's fine.
starting
So
quite soon.
yeah, that's okay. I would request all of you to open the cameras because it will be an interactive session. So it would be great if I can see your faces as well.
So, ma'am, we'll start right away. Others can join in between till then. So, first of all, I would like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Kamalika Banerjee, on this auspicious occasion of National Teachers Day. So, first of all, I would like to introduce a speaker. So, science, as we all know, is a quest for knowledge. Today, we stand on the shoulders of giants and carry the torch forward. However, scientific knowledge as it exists is incomprehensible without great teachers who make our foundation concrete. Again, I would like to wish Dr. Kamalika Banerjee a happy Teachers Day on behalf of Futuristic Photons and others as well. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to enlighten us about the applications of biotechnology in space. Dr. Kamalika Banerjee is a social entrepreneur, innovator, educator, and the founder of The Light Mission, a social venture that creates innovations for change to answer societal challenges. Currently, she is working towards child safety and rights, mental wellness, socio emotional learning, women empowerment, and holistic inclusive healing through social technological innovations and social educational workshops. She is a scientist by education with her PhD from IIT Delhi. She created and pioneered the concept of scientific wisdom, a unique philosophy that amalgamates scientific concepts with consciousness that has led to the enhancement of mental strength and inner well being among the youth. Her work has won many coveted awards and accolades, and she is mentor for Niti Aayog to empower young innovators. And we are really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. So shall I start?
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. So hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. Uh, Not only, I mean, I am very thankful for you all wishing me Happy Teachers Day, but I also want to wish you on this beautiful occasion because through this talk, I will really request you, even if you have a bad network connection, just switch on your cameras because so that I can, talk with you. Yes, that is great. I would request others also. Please don't be shy. Just open up the cameras because we are going to discuss some interesting science. That's all it is. So there's nothing to be, nervous about. I can only see two people. Yes, that is great. Please open up your camera because it will be an
Good evening,
interactive
ma'am.
session. Yes, thank
Good
you,
evening,
thank you.
ma'am.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Yes, all of you, please open up your cameras. You don't have to speak, you don't have to be nervous or anything. Just open up your camera so that we can talk. Then only you will learn. Otherwise, it's like, ah, boring lecture de diya. Some presentation de diya, and then you'll be like, you'll be sleeping probably. So please open up your cameras because it's going to be fun. And we are going to talk about very interesting science, which is not going to be boring. Yes, great. Others also, please, I request. It's a fun session. Nothing serious. So I hope everybody is good with English because I mean, I can talk in or I can mix up the languages as well. So I hope that's okay with everyone. If anybody feels a problem with anything, yeah, great. I also would
Sure,
like
man,
to,
that would work.
yes. Also, I would like to, so I'll tell you how I have designed this session and the talk. So I'm going to talk about biotechnological applications in space, what has happened, what is happening right now, and what is going to happen in the future. So they might, in this group, there are people who are school children. Mostly they are bachelors in physics and biotech, and few in biotechnology, right? And the physics people might not understand some terms in bio, or the bio people might not understand some terms in physics. School students might not understand a lot of very basic things. Okay, so you ask your questions at the end, right? Main questions, but while I'm speaking and explaining, if there is some terminology that you do not understand, so please just type it in the message. So open up your chat box and be ready to type. Okay, and just mention, oh, what did you say? The terminology question mark. So I'll understand and I'll explain you right away because my chat box is also open. And by the way, I have logged in both from my phone and the laptop, so my vision will be a little, here and there. So please, like I hope that's fine with you. So be open to write and just put the terminology and the question mark. So, because there's a varied group now, so it will be easy for me to explain. Okay. So, I would like to ask from all of you, what do you understand by space biology? What is bio like? When you saw this poster, biotech in space, what was the first thing that came into your mind? Aliens. Aliens होते हैं दुनिया में aliens होते हैं. What else? So open your either type it or just open your mic and just share what is it? What was the first thing that came into your mind when you talk like
Ma'am,
biotech in space?
healthcare facilities in space of astronauts.
Okay, that's great. What else? Growing food on other planet, yes. Theory of panspermia, purana ho gaya. Aliens, yes, of course. Having an ecosystem in space. Great. So yeah, matlab, approximately as we are seeing, like especially when we watch the movies The Martian, like the kind of movies Interstellar and Martian, which I'm sure everybody has watched, such popular movies by Matt Damon and all. So yes, I do understand. First thing that comes, okay, we have to we are exploring life in Mars. We have to see how the crops can be grown in space, or astronauts are going. So what all health conditions they might be facing, right? So that is all a study of biology in space. Yes. So what all can we see? So, but there's a little more to all that is there. So I'll take you through the history of how space biology started in the first place. So, around this World War ended, and then space program started in the US. Okay, space program started in the US. And Soviet Union were also working towards that. So what happened is in the late 1940s. So the US and the Soviet Union, they all wanted to launch, they all were Cold War. So they all wanted to launch this, humans. They wanted to have manned space flights, but they cannot just send humans in space. So they first started off exploring that using monkeys. So in the late 1940s, a monkey named Albert was first launched in space, and that was the start of the space biology program in the US. It was sent off with a rocket called Blossom 3 in 1948. And after that, several space missions were held by sending monkeys and mice and seeing whether they survive in space or not, followed by a manned space flight that occurred in 1961. Simultaneously, Soviet Union is a competitor, right? So Soviet Union launched 9 dogs in 1951 and 52. It's a historic dog named Laika that survived 1 week in orbit in 1957. And then parallelly, US had sent its first manned space mission in 1961. But that is fine, okay? Like first humans sent in space, although they didn't land yet. Then there was a lot of interest in gravitational biology. The interest in gravitational biology, of course, when we talk about space, gravitation is a very important point. So when we talk about gravitational biology, not only for space, plant biologists have been very much interested. There's a question. Let's see. I'll talk about that. So plant biologists were very interested in gravitational biology because see plants, how the roots are growing downwards because of gravity and the shoots growing upwards. So gravitational biology was a field which was existing since 1800s. Okay, late 1800s, and it was focused only on plants. And then what happened is people were interested to study effects of hypergravity in centrifuge. So let me explain what is hypergravity for people who might not know. So normally we call Earth's gravity as 1g. Okay, if I'm increasing the gravity to more than 1g, will be hypergravity. And as in space, when we go to space, it is microgravity, like in points, 0.01 g or something like that, right? How can we get hypergravity on Earth? Apart because normally it is 1g. So how can we get it? So using centrifuge. Is there anybody who does not know what is a centrifuge? Please type it. Is there anybody who does not know what is a centrifuge? Okay, so everybody knows what is a centrifuge, right? So, yeah. So what I was saying was that these plant biologists were trying to study the effect of hypergravity using centrifuge because okay, somebody does not know what is a centrifuge. Um, we have two of the forces, I mean, which is centrifugal force and centripetal force. Okay, centrifugal force, like we ऐसे घुमाते हैं ना, we spin something and it just moves out. It does not come inside. It moves outside, moves towards the outer. So when we spin something, it moves towards the outside. That is the centrifugal force. So people have created an instrument. Biotechnologists, they have created an instrument where you put something and it will spin. The revolutions per minute can extend from 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 to 1 lakh as well. Because for different kinds of biotechnological might have to separate the different layers of the cell that is there. You need to centrifuge even at 80,000 revolutions per minute or 1 lakh. Okay, so that is centrifuge. So the gravity at that time, the gravitational force really increases, right? So what people did, the scientists, the plant biologists did, was they trying to understand hypergravity using centrifuge. Then in the late 1800s, this was studied for space explorations. So in unmanned missions, bacteria, fungi, they were just or cells, single cells. They were just sent into space flights to see what are the kind of changes that is happening. Uh, there will be a terminology that I will be using. That is a single mammalian cell. So let me explain you that in cell culture, what does that mean? So in biotechnological applications to understand, like for example, I'm trying to understand effect of a drug on cancer cells. अब सीधा तो humans में नहीं डाल देंगे, right? We will not insert it directly in humans. We will use so what we do is we extract cancer cells, okay, grow them in an artificial environment which is called the cell culture, okay, because a lot of media and food is given, just like in the body you give, it is outside, which we call in vitro experiments. Okay, so we are giving a lot of food and the cell grows there. And then you are testing different, so cells are growing independently, and you are testing different drugs or different kind of compounds or how the cell is growing. So you send those cells in space and let the experiments be done, unmanned or manned, depending on what kind of flight they're sending. And so when manned space flight missions started, people were very, of course, scientists were very curious as to understand the effect of gravity, because while they are, traveling from Earth to space, there will be hypergravity for a few seconds, and then when they are in space, it will be microgravity. To understand the effect of gravity, to understand the effect of radiation, they wanted different kind of human cell-based studies were done. In that, one of the among bacteria and fungi, lymphocytes were also studied. What are lymphocytes? Lymphocytes help T cell lymphocytes. They help in our immune system. Okay, they are like protectors of our immune system. White blood cells, jo hote hain, like just a COVID, whatever fights is the T cell lymphocyte. Okay, so of course we wanted to understand. Uh, of course, we wanted to understand the effect of lymphocytes on the astronaut. So उसमें क्या हुआ कि gravitational biology by the 1980s became of more a formal discipline, with satellites being launched by 1960s, and in different satellites, both US and Soviet, that is the Russian ones, they sent off with bacteria, fungi, and the cells. Eventually, even eventually, uh, uh, the studies, this was initial and they were very preliminary experiments with no controls and all. Eventually, good studies were done with more defined experimental definitions. So now I'm going to talk about what exactly they have done, and I'll be talking about the recent research. So this was the initial story of how space biology started, and now I'll be talking about the recent research that is happening in the space biology. So I'll share the screen. So can people see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Yes. So um, in this figure, it gives you an overview of what kind of research that is happening currently. People are trying to understand the effect of different conditions of space, which are very different from Earth. In omics, omics means proteomics, that is study of proteins. So genomics, that is study of genomics, that is study of genes. Okay, so we try to understand how the, the proteins and the genes are getting altered when we go to space. Okay, versus the Earth. And as it is written, we are trying to understand the influence on the astronauts. Okay, and then we also try to understand. So using microbes, especially, we try to understand how it influences the microbes. So uh, I want to ask you one question. That can you give me a quick uh, earthly condition where you can have real 100% microgravity?
Ma'am, underwater?
No, underwater there will be a lot of pressure of water. Yes, but that's the
Ma'am, can you repeat the question, ma'am?
I am saying tell me the perfect, tell me the earthly situation where you get perfect microgravity, like in space. So I know. So somebody did mention free fall. Yes, of course. We have studied in school also. Free fall, सीधा ऊपर से फेंको. At that time there is no gravity that is acting on it. It's a very common knowledge. And but the problem is we cannot carry out those experiments because free fall 3-4 seconds it's over 3-4 seconds, right? So we cannot conduct our experiments which takes days and probably months. Bio-based experiments. For that we need to yes vacuum, but again like vacuum condition doesn't give you gravity less situation. Gravity always is my PPT visible because the uh, electricity just went off, so Wi-Fi might not.
No,
No,
ma'am,
ma'am.
it isn't visible. You may reshare it.
So it will just come into. Okay. So I'll just tell you, it's a similar thing that I mentioned in the PPT. So it is very important. So now this lights and space, if you want to try experiments or biotech experiments in space, they're very expensive because you don't go every day in space, right? So how do we carry out the experiments on Earth? At least preliminary or more than preliminary experiments on Earth and then go to space. And then, further take those experiments further in space. So how can we cannot do a free fall. So how do we create that environment? Um, So how do we create that environment on Earth?
Ma'am, your PPT isn't visible.
Yeah, now it's good. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, now it's visible.
So the different so in ISS, sorry, which is the International Space Station. So the environment that is kept is 22 degrees and 60% humidity. Right? This microgravity situation. So before going into carrying out the experiments in ISS, um, to carry out experiments on Earth, a clinostat has been developed. Clinostat, it as you can see, what is written here, that the petri dishes are set and rotated perpendicularly at a constant rotation. So they are set in a way, as you can see in the pictures, not very clear, but here also you can see. This is an example from Bioser Space Technologies, which is uh, in the US and it works on biospace applications. So they are trying to they rotate it perpendicularly in a way which reduces the gravitational situation and it mimics the environment that is there in space. So that a lot of like petri dishes where you are growing the fungus or you are growing the bacteria, it can fit into that module and you are rotating in a way that there is no microgravity. So it can simulate those experiments which are going to happen in space, right? Then further, a lot of studies of radiation is done to understand its effect on the human body. So different kind of cells, whether it's bacteria or fungi, or cells like human cells, are to understand the effect of radiation on them. Experiments are done, and again, genomics and proteomics studies are done to understand difference, any kind of differences happened in the gene expression, the protein expression of that particular cell. The second part I'm going to talk about again later. So radiation, as you can see, it's a DNA, it's a DNA molecule, and the radiations are very harmful in space, and they can, break the strands of DNA, right? So in the second part of the figure, this one second part of the figure, what I'm trying to show here is, for especially for non-biotechnology, is that it's not a very straightforward reaction in the body that okay, strand आया, well, sorry, radiation I DNA टूट गया, and that's it. So many molecules are involved. You can see so many molecules are involved just to act on the genes. like for example UV are ubiquitin molecules. So they are very so the constant uh, reaction of the body when it's getting acted by radiation is DNA repair. As you can see, the first aspect of body is to heal. So when they go into space, if there is problem, the first thing that happens in astronauts' body is healing. And but the question is how much healing is right in the body, how much healing is happening, and if it's and depends on the amount of exposure, radiation exposure is there, and that's what they want to understand in space, like how much of that genetic material is getting changed in the due to the effect of radiation in space. For example, you can see this is comprehensive data where you can understand how radiation and microgravity and its effects are studied in space experiments. For example, in human blood, there's a flight time and there's a particular level of irradiation that is given. What kind of biological uh, chromosomal aberrations, like biological changes are happening in the body. SOS responses, this is just like SOS, our soul. It's like that, these are all wanting to repair whatever is a problem in the body. Again, here also you can see with not only with human blood, Escherichia coli is normal bacteria. These are all bacteria. Um, okay, so people are suggesting to shift to wired earphones. I'll just shift.
Sure, ma'am. Till then, if anyone has a question or so, they can type the same in the chat box. Or if anything else they would like us to know.
Okay, sir, one question. Why we call it as microgravity instead zero gravity? So
So
can you
the
hear me, sir?
reason,
That's a good question
yes, sir.
because they are not expecting it is not it is never completely zero actually. It's always the studies that are done, they're always like 0.04, or they mention it in terms of like 10 to the power minus 3, 10 to the power minus 2, 10 to the power minus 4 g. That's how they mention it in research papers. So they never nullify it to zero. They always mention it as minimal or negligible. So that is why I guess it is said microgravity, because that is how it is reported. Like here also
Okay,
you
thank you.
saw, yeah, fine, great. So as you can see, it's not only human blood, E. coli is bacteria, S. cerevisiae is yeast. These are model organisms. Model organisms means we do a lot of, this is a fruit fly, जो खाने fruits में होता है ना, एक मक्खी बैठती है छोटी सी, that is a Drosophila melanogaster. And different kind of studies are there, and you can clearly see. And one thing that I would like to mention is D. radiodurans. So this is a very popular bacteria, which, as you can understand with the name radiodurans, means it is very resistant to radiation. Yet it gets affected in space. Okay. And I'll show you another data which will be very interesting, where you'll see like there is another microorganism which is much more powerful than radiodurans. Radiodurans might even die in radiation, but that microorganism just doesn't die. So we'll talk about that in the subsequent slides. This is another data. So differential gene expression microgravity, differential gene expression like we do in microarrays. Like it means like all the genes that are there in the body. Okay, that will be put in a plate and it will be assessed. Like in cancer, it is commonly used because in cancer, what happens? There's always an increase or rise in some kind of a chemical or a molecule or a protein in the cell, or a reduction is there. So we through the microarray, we see, oh, this is normal case and this is a cancerous cell. We can see, oh, this is elevated. So that's why, because of that 1, 2, 3 genes, it is cancer is happening. So we know which cancer is, like that. So here also, when we are going into space, we are trying to understand the normal on Earth, what is the condition which is normal, and then in space, what all other changes are happening. What all gene is getting more expressed or less expressed, or what is the difference, and in what percentages there is a difference, and it is possible that they might be having a long term effect. So why do these experiments happen? Mostly is because um, uh, right now short term manned flights are fine, but when it comes to long term, because we are trying to have a manned mission to Mars, So we need to work on the biology. We need to understand, because humans cannot sustain, or can they sustain such long-term changes in the human body and the cells. So that is what we want to understand. So you can see so many genes, like more than 1632 genes have been shown to have changes in the presence of microgravity. Now, so here I'll go here quickly. So in the second part, you can see that uh, people also want to understand biofilm formation. Now, what is biofilm? Let's explore that. Okay, people want to understand pathogenicity and virulence. I mean, in space, why would pathogen or a virulent pathogen means any kind of bacteria which affects the body? Okay, so why would pathogens be there in space? Can somebody tell me? Uh, why would why would space have pathogens that will infect human beings in space? I mean, or what is its role? Can somebody tell me?
So actually, it is from the space cruise only. The pathogens might be released from cruise themselves. I hope
Yeah,
so.
that is one possibility. Yes, and also in the spaceship as well, it takes away some of the microbes into space. Yeah. So, what is a biofilm? As you can see in the first image here, right? There's some kind of microorganisms that, you know, start secreting as they keep growing. They start secreting some kind of molecules like proteins or polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are carbohydrates. They start and they are highly resistant to antibiotics. So start releasing and accumulating, and then after a point in time, they also start releasing in terms of spores in the environment, which is very harmful for the astronauts over there in the space. And this is an electron microscopic image of the same. So I'll show you real examples in space of how this biofilm actually looks like. Check this out. This is image from NASA, a biofilm formation in a plumbing, a water kind of an inlet. Imagine this is happening, and this is an image from the spacecraft which has been there in space, basically ISS, okay, International Space Station. Then here also you can see that this is the clear channel. Everywhere there is biofilms, and this is very answer that question later. So again, you can see that biofilms. So what happens is eventually it starts as it gets accumulated. Now these are water inlets, and if water inlets get bad in space, and then the microbes are growing, and then they'll start releasing in space, because these are basically Aspergillus niger, which are fungi means release spores. Okay, spores getting released, the astronauts can inhale them, which is very harmful. Okay, because these are airborne kind of microorganisms, and also they're affecting the instrument. So I have also heard, like, quartz is used for the glass, for strong glasses in the spacecraft. This aspergillus also grows in quartz. So it's affecting the space environment, and that's why this study is so important. And there's a very recent study. It's actually a doctoral research study by a student in German. So and it's a 2017 to 2021 study. It's a very recent study. So as you can see, Aspergillus niger, it is a very famous fungal model system, and it is very commonly observed in ISS air filter samples and debris. And it can lead to material biodegradation. It can, because of airborne spores, it can affect astronauts' health, and also it can affect the medical materials and the water systems, which is very harmful. As you can see here also, different kind of bacterial species as isolated from different and it is a typical biotech based what kind of media you are growing into. And the biofilms are growing in stainless steel, polycarbonate membranes, and the millipores. These are commonly used again in water systems. These are basic membrane systems that are there. This is another experiment, like they're just proving it. This is a fluorescence based experiment. They're just trying to prove that these biofilms grow in microgravity situations. So these are experiments done in microgravity, and they just want to show that uh, the microorganisms are growing and forming biofilms even in microgravity situations. That is what they are trying to prove here. Now, again, you can see from this experiment that they are trying to testing launch conditions means before. So these were done on Earth. These experiments were done on Earth uh, by this NASA. It's a joint study by NASA and German Aerospace Research Study. So these studies basically were done using clinostats, the ones that I showed before, in microgravity situations. These were preliminary experiments done, and now they are sending it because it's a joint study. Now they will be sending it in space with the help of NASA. So what you understand with this, the first one is that these are different media that is used like for potato, dextrose, agar, and all. So this is minimal media. So you see the fungi growing, Penicillium, Chrysogenum. Chrysogenum, these are, as the name suggests, were used to produce penicillin. Again, here also you see colony morphology under simulated microgravity. Here also you see it's growing as if there is no effect on as in there's no effect on microgravity on the formation of biofilms and the growth of the microbe even in the space conditions. So this is a study to understand that. Now, does space radiation help reduce this? Unfortunately, this is again a 2020 study, I guess, says that Aspergillus niger spores are highly resistant to space radiation. So this is what I was telling you, that uh, even radiodurans dies. Aspergillus niger does not die, and I'll show you another example here. That Aspergillus niger is like it doesn't want to die. Okay, then this is another study. It's a very interesting study. So among, like I was discussing the other projects, NASA also started off this balloon mission. Okay, this is called balloon mission. So what they are doing is they go to the stratosphere, which is like, and try to mimic the, not, they do not try to, they say that using the Earth's stratosphere, it's actually simulating the Mars environment, the Mars surface environment completely. So they don't have to go all the way to like absolute space. Just being in the Earth's stratosphere and low Earth orbit, they can try to simulate the conditions of Mars and carry Mars surface and carry out the experiments. So while they were doing it, they try to test different microorganisms, as it is mentioned. Extremophiles are those which are extreme, like in extreme conditions on Earth, they are very stable, like volcanoes or the hot spring waters. So they wanted to test them also, what is their condition in space, right? Like radiodurans is an extremophile. So different kind of experiments were done, and here you can see what happened. Aspergillus niger just does not die. It's alive. See, okay. So here you can see, like, these are fresh spores. Okay, this is an antifungal component. Just consider antifungal, and cell wall stressor means another antifungal component which wants to kill, kill, like if you want to break the cell walls. So again, it's another antifungal component. So you see the spores are growing. For lab control also growing. Okay, you do see in UV exposed, depending on the percentage, like 10 to the power 5, then only it grows. It's sort of getting reduced. If it's UV shielded, it will grow again. So people observed in space that fungal spores of Aspergillus niger might survive on the Martian surface for 5 hours. If, like, it is possible that it might survive for 5 hours. So through this study, they understood that, and so this is known as Mars box survival experiments, and they do these balloon missions, which is another very important aspect of the NASA astrobiology and space program as well. Then, so here, as we discussed about the effect of radiation on microgravity, then we saw the biofilm formation. And also, now, can somebody tell me why this is important? Like what is this production of secondary metabolites and development of antibodies and vaccines have to do with space research? And this is not happening on Earth, let me tell you. This is happening in space. So can somebody tell me, why do I need to develop antibodies and vaccines in space?
And there might be an foreign body in space which can cause damage to the internal functioning of astronauts.
Yes, that does happen. But then people, from Earth, they take their medicines. What is the need of that? They take their medicines. All the medical equipments are there in space. So what is the need of that? Somebody,
Probably
anybody?
the ideal conditions that space provides us for research. As we have earlier mentioned that whenever we have to like work upon or just reproduce a culture of microbes, so free fall is the best, what we can say, it's the best situation for the sake of same. So that could be one reason, like it would give a better environment for research,
Okay.
completely eliminating various external factors.
Free fall is on Earth and it is like only for 2, 3, 3, 4 seconds. So we cannot do any experiments with free fall. But the the purpose of this is that it is actually people are trying to, like for example, in space, urine. So there is urine and poop. Okay, so urine is converted into water again. So there's this dialogue by an astronaut which says, "Yesterday's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. Today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee." Means you get what I'm trying to say here. So we need to recycle, like they need to recycle it. So urine can be recycled, poop cannot be recycled. Okay. This is okay when you're having 1 year, a short term space mission. But if you're trying to plan for a Mars mission, it is going to be like people cannot rely that somebody from Earth will come and there will be constant exchange of material or medicines. It will get expired. So the idea, so because I know a lot of people asked in terms of the career prospects, I'll also try to now shift into the career prospects. First of all, biotech experiments, when it comes to omics, they ask for a lot of the equipments are huge, they're heavy, we cannot take them into space. Okay, so if you want to do studies, we need miniaturization. So if you're studying electronics, instrumentation, even physics, whatever subject, work on miniaturization of biotech equipments or just equipments. How, like for example, a discovery of a clinostat, can you discover another, like can you reduce the microarray system or the instruments, the proteomics and genomics instruments are huge, can you reduce them? So that requires a kind of study and intellect to do that. Secondly, so people are talking about Mars manned missions. So people want reduction of waste. How can we recycle waste? Okay, like at this point, like the astronauts poop. It's how it is recycled is it is sent off to Earth. It is sent off to Earth, and it supposedly burns in the stratosphere while entry. And it's very terrible to even think about it, might not end up on your head. Okay, so anyhow, that's a joke. But when it comes to long term missions, there's nobody where you can send it out. So how can we recycle it? Then talking about growth of crops, the instruments that are there required for it to study. And also people now are focusing because a lot of food and medicines will be required when you're going into space, like especially long term manned flights. So Aspergillus niger is very famously used and commonly used on Earth in terms of producing it produces a lot of secondary metabolites and it's very useful. It's used in the packaging industry, in the food industry. It is used. So can this Aspergillus niger that is there, so when we take it into space, it will have a very small container. So is it possible we just add water to it and it just starts producing some kind of metabolites that I can eat in space? So you understand that there is reduction in the payload that you are carrying to space, and you are also getting food, the metabolites, and the medicine from that material. right? So that is the benefit of it. And also we cannot carry so many medicines or in the space, and also it is possible that some kind of new problem is coming in the body because of long term exposure, because as of now there has not, and no astronaut has been has not been exposed to such a long term situation in being in space. So can these be used to develop vaccines and antibodies? I'll be discussing these examples, the latest innovations that is happening, which will like just blow you out of your mind because of the latest innovations that is done by entrepreneurs today. And a lot of work is being done by NASA and the European institutes. So this is something that I've taken from the NASA website about the latest research that is happening. Right. Just an overview, you can see, just you can read yourself an overview of the kind of work that is happening. Right. Now I'll be going and talking about the latest innovations, entrepreneurial innovations that is happening. Right. So, so can you imagine how drug discovery is happening in space? Can somebody tell me? Drug discovery is happening in space. How is it happening? How are people doing drug discovery? Anyone? No one? Okay, I'll tell you. So the people are writing. So let me see if it's anything relevant. Okay, no, nobody has written. So I'll tell you. People are discovering drug in space. How? There are pharmaceutical companies currently that are collaborating with NASA to run experiments on the International Space Station. In space, so one of the most common problems that the astronauts face in space is bone mass loss of bone mass. So even the most healthiest astronauts that go in space, within 6 months there is loss of bone mass. And what it leads to osteoporosis. Okay, it leads to osteoporosis, which means the bones become brittle and it is easily breakable. So what people, how it is, how is space used to study and benefit mankind on Earth? See that. Pharmaceutical companies are collaborating with NASA and the uh, trying to understand the bone cells, because on Earth it will take time. On space, the bone to study, uh, the I mean, you know how these studies are done. Let me tell you about the way it is done. So when we are trying to study drug discovery outside the body in terms of in vitro experiments that we call it, we take the bone cells, as I said previously about cell culture experiments. We'll take the bone cells, give them food, and then add drugs. Right. So on Earth, even if I'm doing the experiment to study osteoporosis, what happens is that I do not know if it's actually happening because of microgravity, because there are many other factors that are acting on it. But in space, we know that if I'm adding an anti-osteoporotic drug onto that, and if there is an increase in bone mass, right? I know that that drug is acting on it, and there are not other reasons because of which the bone mass has started growing all of a sudden in cell culture. So I know that the action of the drug is very specific to increasing the bone mass. And thus, I discover a drug in space and I bring back, and that drug can be used for clinical trials to alleviate osteoporosis on Earth. So, that is how drug discovery is happening in space. So, there's this FDA approved osteoporosis drug Prolia, which is, made by Amgen, which is a pharmaceutical company. It's a monoclonal antibody that inhibits the cells that break down bone. So this study was done with the help, this Amgen collaborated with NASA space experiments, and that's how they did. Another very interesting thing is that researchers at the University of California, Davis, so they are transforming plants into mini medicine factories for future Mars missions. Now, this is known as metabolic engineering. It's a very interesting aspect of biotechnology. Metabolic engineering, what they do is that, the plants grow, they grow much faster. You change some um, gene of the metabolic pathway. Just change some gene of the metabolic pathway, and it will lead to more growth of that particular protein. So that is how you have engineered the metabolism of that plant. One aspect of it, the plant is growing. And so because it's a plant, you can grow as much as you want, and it's easy, and it's like biological, completely grown in a plant. So this is a very interesting aspect, that is very interesting field that exists in the bigger umbrella of biotechnology. So researchers are transforming plants and using it as mini medicine factories to grow proteins like parathyroid hormone, which if somebody wants to go into Mars eventually, long term missions, as I said previously, that people want to develop drugs because of long term missions. Now people cannot carry drugs, or they will not be constant exchange of material, because now ISS and all these are closer to Earth. But when it goes to Mars, they need to be self dependent on themselves, the astronauts. They cannot be like Earth is going every day, people from Earth are going and exchanging material. That is not going to happen. So people need to, so that's why research is happening. Another very interesting aspect I'll tell you is protein crystallization. What is protein crystallization? So when we talk about, like when we go to the doctor for some kind of a ailment, like cancer, let's say, okay, there are cancerous cells, they're growing wildly everywhere, okay. So there are drugs which, why does that one specific drug act on that cancer molecule and not, why is it that specific? Because while we are doing research, what happens is that we know the structure of this cancer cell, or whatever that protein is there, whatever protein it can be. We can also take an example of a like stomach ache, stomach pain that you're having. So this is a pain receptor, and there is a drug, anti-pain drug that you are adding. Now if the structure of this is like this, okay, what if you have a drug which is like this? No, it's not fitting, sorry, it's not fitting, right? Then if you have a drug like this, there is a lot of space there, so it does not help. I exactly need a drug shaped like this, that it fits and it blocks the pain, and so now you are not having pain, right? So for that, I need to know the structure of this properly, so that I can design the drug accordingly. Otherwise, I don't know what to design. If I design something like this, it will not fit here. So I need to know the structure of this. How do we know the structure of this? Is through a system called protein crystallization. So we just crystallize this protein, like through experimentation, just crystallize this, so that I know, that okay, this is the structure of the protein, and accordingly I can design the drugs. So what has been observed till now is that when people go to space and do these protein crystallization experiments, somehow the results and the quality and the size of crystals has turned out to be much better. So people are actually doing a lot of protein crystallization experiments in space, because the results are much better, and are yes, that's what I can say, much better, much higher resolution of the structure is coming out compared to what is there on Earth. People are doing vaccine development. Imagine. Now, how they are doing vaccine development is, people observe that pathogens increase their virulence more quickly in space than on Earth. What it means is that they're, like for example, on Earth we saw that COVID, its virulence increased with Delta variant. So that is what it means. Uska potency बढ़ गया to cause disease, right? Um, okay, so pathogens increase their virulence more quickly in space, and so to an experiment of that X pathogen X on Earth will take much more time compared to that experiment done in space, because they are becoming virulent faster. For example, today COVID took 1.5 years to form a Delta variant. Maybe if it had been in space, it would have formed in 4 months. So my study in terms of research is much faster, and I get to know. This is just an example, by the way. So I get to know uh, what is it that is what genes are getting activated and what is getting more virulent, so that when on Earth I can quickly do the research and act on that particular gene and protein, because we all need to work in terms of gene and protein and understand what is getting high, what is getting low, and do the research. We also, as I discussed before, that T cells, when they are going into space, T cells get the T cell lymphocytes, which I talked about, which are immune cells, they get immunosuppressed, like in people who suffer from AIDS, right? Why do they people do not suffer from AIDS? In AIDS, people suffering from AIDS do not suffer from AIDS. They suffer from nosocomial infections. It means they are suffering from other diseases. क्योंकि उनका immune system इतना कम है ना, इतना weak हो जाता है that they are suffering from other things more than AIDS itself, or yeah, I mean HIV itself. I mean, sorry. So, in space, because of different conditions, stress, physiological stress, and immunosuppressive effect is there on the body, and the immune systems are get weaker. So, so it has been found that it mimics aging. Now I'll share a very interesting study here, that there were twin astronauts. Okay, they were named as Scott and Mark Kelly. Scott went to space for 1 year, and then when he came back, him and his twin brother, Scott and Mark Kelly, both of them were tested, physiologically, what were the changes. They found that the one who went to space, that is Scott, his telomeres had reduced. What are telomeres? They are, we have the DNA in our body. Towards the end, there is telomeres. Okay, it acts as a protecting thing. It protects your DNA, and it's towards the end. Now, we have a particular, as we age, it has a particular length, and as we age, it starts reducing. Okay, and uh, like when we take chronic stress or something, it gets reducing, and your body ages faster. So when he went to space, he observed that the telomeres had shortened. Okay, so that reflects, and it like there is a lot of other things that's happening parallelly, so that reflects that aging is happening faster in space. Then there's one very interesting thing that people have been doing, that is known as biomining in space. Now, what is biomining? So in 2019, the European Space Agency BioRock investigation conducted in the International Space Station, how microbes can extract rare earth elements from basalt in space. Now, basalt is a common rock that is found in Mars and Moon. Okay, so the team showed that microbes can not only mine elements in space, but they are able to do that much better in gravitational conditions. Now, this is something that they want to explore. Like these researchers found that vanadium biomining was 283% higher in reduced gravity conditions. Right. So these are studies that are done to understand eventually. This is just one study. So there are many other studies happening, and overall, it gives a picture of what and how things should be taken in space. Recycling waste, I talked about how recycling is a very important aspect, and people are looking for more efficient recycling, because if we talk about long manned missions, we need recycling constantly. And also fungus is being used to understand if we can, because fungus has those hyphae coming out of it, unse kitna kuch nikalta rehta hai, right? Those white things that keeps coming out. So they want to understand the if that can be used to create a habitat in the space. Like if you're going to Mars, can I use fungi, fungus, mushrooms to create a habitat where I'm staying without it affecting me and releasing spores into my nose? So that is a kind of study that is going on. So these are research-based studies with practical applications. Now I'll talk about some entrepreneurial companies which are doing this in space. These are very recent studies that all of them, I'm talking about. One company is, it is known as Solar Foods. Solar Foods, it's a Finnish company, Finland-based company. They make food out of thin air. Imagine, like just out of thin air, because they do not need land to grow, because they say that they are able to produce 50% protein just out of carbon dioxide, water, and electricity. So thankfully, these astronauts will be exhaling carbon dioxide in space. So they're trying to understand that, trying to improve this methodology of how they can just using carbon dioxide, water, and electricity, and without any land, they can produce food which is ingestible and good for body. Then there is another company which is known as Pluristem Therapeutics. It is uh, addressing problems, injury-based problems in space. Okay, and these are all mostly, for long manned missions, long-term manned missions. So what they are doing is they are using placental cells. Placental cells means stem cells. Stem cells means like in a body, cells, everything is stem cells. Now that stem cells will differentiate into your eye cells, your stomach cells, your bone marrow cells, your blood cells. Okay, that same stem cell becomes so many things. But essentially, it is always a stem cell at the beginning. So these stem cells, so they are there a lot. They are very, majorly there in placental cells, right? The fetus placenta. So they're using this quality of the stem cells. It's very commonly used. Quality of the stem cells. You must have heard of stem cell therapy for cancer. So they're using this quality of stem cells to differentiate into anything, and they can help solve, address an injury problem. So they're trying to address that. Another very interesting thing is 3D printing. Now I know we all know about 3D printing and how it has brought about a big change. So in space also they are doing 3D printing. They have not noticed any kind of difference because of microgravity situations. So 3D printing is as valid in space as it is on Earth. Now what they're doing is, you must have heard of bio 3D printing, as in, people are printing 3D printing tissues, or bio-based tissues, right? So there's a Russian laboratory, 3D bioprinting solutions. Now what they're doing is they have actually printed mouse thyroid gland and human cartilage in space, and it is there currently in the International Space Station, and they're doing their experiments for 5 years, the next 5 years, to, optimizing the experiments of how bioprinting, 3D bioprinting can be used for different biotech applications. Another company is Space Tango. Space Tango, what they're doing is they're sending payloads into space to understand the effects of microgravity on the development of antibiotic resistance in E. coli, and also different conditions like organs on chip, and germination and growth of barley seeds in microgravity. Now I want to talk about why antibiotic resistance is important, because what is happening on Earth, I don't know how many of you are aware. So the most likely the next pandemic that is going to happen is antimicrobial resistance, because if you're aware of what is happening, people, viral हुआ antibiotic ले लिया. अरे viral का antibiotic से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, right? You are having virus and you are eating an antimicrobial like antimicrobes is mostly antibacterial, and you are eating it. So what has happened is happening is so many, like penicillin is no more relevant today. Penicillin has like everything has got and these microorganisms are all resistant to penicillin. So there are many very important recent antibiotic drugs that are now resistant. Sorry, the microbes are resistant to antibiotic drugs. So what is the guarantee that in space, when they are suffering from, astronauts are suffering from some kind of a disease, and they take antibiotics, nothing is happening. So also in space, that kind of study needs to happen to understand the antimicrobial resistance in space, right? So I'll share a link here. Maybe you can take a screenshot about, because a lot of you had questions about the space, career applications. So I hope it's visible, this one, right? So, what kind of courses that you might need to do to understand or pursue astrobiology. So what I was looking through was that, in bachelor's, master's, you can take any course, physics or biochemistry, geology, whatever, maths, of course, you have to take. It's mostly for PhD programs you can take, but mostly it's in postdoctoral programs that people actually, work on astrobio programs. So there's no BSc as such, but mostly in at once you have taken that basic understanding of STEM subjects,
as you go higher in terms of research, you can explore astrobiology, like the fungal based experiments that I discussed. They were all that only. What do you call? That was doctoral research by a student. So these are some of the maybe you can just take a screenshot of the some of the institutes that are working on uh, and this is a recent aerobiology laboratory program that has been started in 2017. And the best way to look would be to look for different conferences that happen, like American Society for Microbiology is a very popular conference, and different astrobio-based programs that are there, different journals that are there. You can just check them out. Sorry. Yeah, so you can just check them out. Yeah. So now I would like to take questions and any doubts that you had or something, some clarity you want.
Teacher,
Yes, please ask.
I have a doubt.
Yes.
What put suit in the space?
Can you please repeat?
What put suit in space?
What put suit in space? What does that mean?
Suit in space going
आप
rocket
क्या पूछे
suit.
में?
म्हणजे
As in, like,
मतलब
हाँ बताइए.
वो सूट पहनते ना स्पेस जाते वक्त
हाँ
क्यों
हाँ
पहनते
स्पेस
वो?
सूट पहनते. क्यों
हाँ वो.
पहनते? अरे ओके सो यू नो एनवायरनमेंट पूरा चेंज हो जाता है जैसे आप बाहर जाते हैं. ठीक है, हवा नहीं है, ऑक्सीजन नहीं है. पहली बात तो ऑक्सीजन ही नहीं है तो आप सांस ही नहीं लोगे, आप तो सीधा ऊपर. ऊपर क्या, ऊपर का ऊपर पहुंच जाओगे, राइट. तो सबसे पहले तो उससे ऑक्सीजन आती है, फिर आपका पूरा बॉडी प्रोटेक्टेड रहता है. वहां पे इतना
हाँ.
रेडिएशन है, सन के रेडिएशन और डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ रेडिएशन, तो वो आपको पूरा यूवी लाइट होगा, वो आपको अर्थ हमें प्रोटेक्ट करता है. हमारे जैसे ओजोन लेयर जिसको हम बोलते हैं, बहुत भयंकर तरीके से हमारे एटमॉस्फेयर हमें प्रोटेक्ट करता है, राइट. तो भाई हम पूरा खत्म हो जाएंगे जैसे पूरा रेडिएशन आएगा ऐसे ही. और सबसे मेन बात तो यही है कि आपका ऑक्सीजन पर प्रेशर डिफरेंस हो जाता है, तो आप.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. Any questions? Any doubts?
Yes, ma'am. One question, ma'am. Actually, can we introduce this astrobiology at school level, ma'am? By integrating some chapters in physics and biology, can we form a course at school level, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Astrobiology.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Because
Absolutely.
I
We
am a
can do
teacher,
that.
ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, sir. We can do that. लेकिन as far as I understand, स्कूल में तो कोर्सेज गवर्नमेंट के साइड से आते हैं ना, तो आप जैसे ऐसे सेशंस हो या एक्स्ट्रा जो भी आवर्स होते हैं या उसमें आप कर सकते हो. और मैं ये सजेस्ट करूंगी जैसे अटल इनोवेशन मिशन का जो है AIM जो प्रोग्राम चल रहा है,
Okay, I am
कितना
actually
सारा
a teacher,
इनोवेशन.
ma'am.
Yes, sir. So
Okay. I am
उसमें
a
जितना
teacher, biology
innovations
teacher.
होता है, people can actually do experiments and create innovations around astrobiology. And
Super, ma'am.
पता
Super,
sir,
ma'am. Right, okay.
and to all of them, all of you, I'll tell you कि today is
Okay,
the
ma'am.
time to be in this field. पता है क्यों?
Sure.
Because yes, sir.
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
just tell. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Kamalika, ma'am, you have done a lot, ma'am. Actually, I am a biology teacher. On the day of Teachers' Day, I have learned a lot from you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'll tell all of you that today is the time to explore this, and don't think कि अरे हम तो physicists हैं, हमें bio से क्या मतलब. जैसे मैंने I am a biologist. How do I get into astrophysics or astrobiology? बाप रे, ऐसा नहीं है. As you can see, everything is interdisciplinary. Especially when we talk about space, everything is interdisciplinary. Okay, even if you do not know maths so much, or even if you know maths and less of bio, when you choose that as a career option, you can always everything today. Please in any field that you go into in your life and career at this point of time, make sure that it is interdisciplinary nature, क्योंकि अब वो समय गया जब अच्छा हम तो बस बायो के स्टूडेंट है, अरे हम तो केवल फिजिक्स के स्टूडेंट है, अरे हम तो केवल मैथ्स के स्टूडेंट है. इफ यू स्टे सो आइसोलेटेड, today things are getting very interdisciplinary, today things are getting smaller and combined. Or especially when you talk about astrobiology, like I said, if you take instrumentation as a subject, okay, you can create those mini instruments which is required to send to space, क्योंकि हम उतने बड़े बड़े instruments नहीं भेज सकते space में. It's not possible. So आपकी तो studies ही नहीं हो पाएगी because you do not have those basic instruments. So take them to space. Or um, what else I was saying, astrobiology program. So आप सो ये व्हाट आई वाज सेइंग, जैसे आपने देखा कि 2017 नासा कर रहा है, और अभी भी ये जो एंटरप्रेन्योरल एक्सप्लोरेशन जो हो रही है ना स्पेस, जो मैंने अभी बताई, तुम लोग डिस्कस किया, सोलर फूड्स, प्लूरिस्टेम थेरेप्यूटिक्स, ये रीसेंट हैं, लाइक not even 5 years, I would say, very recent. And so India can really cover up and catch up with America to explore this avenue of astrobiology. There are some programs that is happening in India, courses, and if people all together come and take this as a career, things will change. India will, just like different innovations happen in different fields, astrobiology भी grow होगा. और आज का ही समय है, it's your generation who needs to take it up and push it forward, क्योंकि इससे पहले था भी नहीं, like in my time it was not there, it's actually happening now. So you are this lecture is happening at the perfect time, and you are perfectly located and situated, your timings are perfect. आप इंडिया को भी लेके जा सकते हो, बाहर जाके आप पढ़ाई करके आओ, इंडिया में भी प्रोग्राम्स हो रहे हैं, आपको जैसा मन है, एंड इवेंचुअली इंडियन स्पेस प्रोग्राम्स विल आल्सो टेक दिस अप and things will move forward. So keep your mindset open. कभी ये मत सोचना अच्छा हम ये बस ये करते हैं, हमें उसका नहीं पता, अरे हम बस ये फील्ड में करते हैं, हमें उसका नहीं पता. This attitude is very wrong. Make sure that you are always open, everything you should know. Okay, you cannot you have to be open to what all opportunities are there. Like for example, जैसे I talked about the different applications, latest innovations that is happening. It's not only biology, it involves a lot of physics and chemistry, a lot. So always think science as science, not individually. Okay. Yes. I would like to any more questions, any doubts, anything?
Ma'am, I have question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, is it possible
Yes.
to get viruses or microbes get mutated and can live its full life in the space environment
uh,
as in the Earth?
Virus, is it possible to get viruses and mutated in space?
And can live its life full life in the space environment as live in the Earth? It is miracle or the sin for the humanity.
If you're asking specifically about viruses, क्योंकि viruses की life cycle बहुत अलग चलती है, right? As we all know, viruses, we say it is present and not present, like it is alive and it is not alive, right? Like Schrodinger's cat, it is alive or dead at the same time. So तो viruses, हाँ, space में उनके ऊपर research हो रही है, और मतलब they have been found in space, like when they go from Earth, and yes, that same kind of, like जैसे बैक्टीरिया और फंजाई में स्टडीज हो रही है, मैमेलियन सेल्स में स्टडी हो रही है, ह्यूमन सेल्स में स्टडी हो रही है, वैसे वायरसेस में भी स्टडी हो रही है. और म्यूटेशन डिपेंड करता है सिचुएशन क्या है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल व्हेन आई सेड एस्परजिलस नाइजर का, पहली बात तो सारे तो मर ही जाएंगे, लाइक ज्यादातर तो सारे वही मर जाएंगे, बैक्टीरिया, वायरस, जो फंजाई जो भी हो. लेकिन एस्परजिलस नाइजर जैसे सरवाइव कर रहा था, अब हमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता वो म्यूटेट कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा. पहली बात तो ये है कि यार सरवाइव ही कर रहा है, वो सरवाइव क्यों कर रहा है, आइदर इट्स वेरी स्टर्डी और म्यूटेशंस आर हैपनिंग. सो दैट स्टडी नीड्स टू बी मेड कि हो क्या रहा है. और एनीवेज इट्स सर्वाइविंग फॉर 5 hours. 5 hours is nothing, right? 5 hours is not enough for a mutation.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
है ना? So that is how I see it. Like पहली बात तो उसका सर्वाइवल का क्वेश्चन आता है कि वो सर्वाइव कर भी रहा है तो क्यों कर रहा है. It can be either just it is very sturdy, or it is because of mutations, obviously, that it is surviving. More questions?
I have one, ma'am. So
Yes.
it was such a lovely session, and We all got to know so much from you. Thank you so much for sharing. You are also a celebrated virologist from IIT Delhi, and we understand that your interest in astronomy has something more to offer than just virology. And the question you just answered proved that. I wanted to ask one question that I always thought that the biggest aliens in this world are viruses themselves, because they are nothing like any other microbe, bacteria, or organism on Earth. So do you think that these viruses come from some outside from the space and then they rain on Earth? Is there something like that, or because I don't think so? They get created on Earth. I think they come from the cosmos. What do you think about that?
So when we go about understanding how life originated, you know, कि पानी था, there was water, then electricity happened, and जो मिलर्स एक्सपेरिमेंट जब हमने देखा है कि धीरे धीरे चीजें अक्यूमुलेट करती रही, कभी थोड़ा सा कुछ बना, उसमें फिर थोड़ा और जुड़ गया, थोड़ा और जुड़ गया, थिंग्स स्टार्टेड ज्वाइनिंग एंड देन अ सेल सिंगल सेल वाज फॉर्म्ड, देन अ मल्टी सेल वाज फॉर्म्ड, देन अकॉर्डिंगली वायरसेस बैक्टीरिया फंजाई जैसे, और फिर फिश एंड ह्यूमंस बने. सो धीरे धीरे वो ओरिजिन ऑफ लाइफ, दैट्स व्हाट वी स्टडी इन मिलर्स एक्सपेरिमेंट, कि धीरे धीरे थिंग्स आर ज्वाइनिंग. सो as of now we do not know anything, or like whether they exist in any kind of such accumulation of particles happening in space which are having life, any kind of basic life also, that is not known as yet. It might be there, it might not be there, still to be explored. But on earth, what is a virus? वो बस accumulate किया, थोड़ा ये जुड़ गया, protein जुड़ गया, the DNA, RNA, the molecules that is there within them, in terms of the carbohydrates and the sugar and all that, they join together, और उससे फिर आपका virus बनता है. So we have to see from that perspective, what is exactly a virus? It's just joining, few things join together, virus ban gaya. So it has happened on Earth because of that origin of life concept and the Miller's experiment, ki electricity padi, and this happened. So that is what I think.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any more questions?
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm Sri Chaitanya. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
uh, happy Teachers' Day, ma'am. And
Thank you so much.
ma'am, I want to know more about the stem cells, where we are in the position about harnessing the stem cells. And today I have heard about that we have created the stem cells from the normal body cells. And I want to know more about it, about stem cells. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is happening is, there's so मैंने जैसे बताया there's stem cells are there. Okay, they're always there. Then it gets differentiated. That's the word we use. It gets differentiated into eye cells. It's not called eye cells, but to explain you, I'm using the word eye cells. Bone marrow cells, your white blood cells like lymphocytes, your hair cells, something like that. Okay, so ऐसे करके it differentiates. People have done research. It's latest but not very recent. People have been doing where they are de-differentiate, like जैसे eye cells, and now they're de-differentiating it. We call that de-differentiation. De-differentiating it back into stem cells, into its original form. It's very difficult. Scientists have been successful in doing that. Okay, so not it's easier to do stem cells. You have stem cells into some specific cell. From specific cell also you can come back to stem cells. So it answers the second point. And the latest, what kind of research that is happening, right? That's what you asked.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, that's what. Yeah. What kind of research? Yeah, stem cells. Like it's a stem cell therapy. You must have heard for cancer, for treatment of cancer. Stem cell therapy बहुत commonly use होता है, especially for very you know difficult and very deadly cancers like leukemia, or even for thalassemia. No, thalassemia के लिए तो bone marrow transplant use होता है. So yes, and these mostly, like in the bone marrow we have these cells which these cells as become present, and they are getting differentiated specifically into different kind of cells. So for dangerous kind of cancers like leukemia, AML जैसे है हमारा myeloid AML. So people are using stem cell therapy for treatment because जब आपका drugs काम नहीं करता और chemotherapy काम नहीं करती, people are actually depending on stem cell therapy for the treatment of cancers. So yes, it is being used. It has shown potency in terms of treatment, and now people are also exploring that for space. So
Okay, ma'am.
even yeah, बताओ.
I heard a myth. I don't know if it is myth or real that we can create a mic clone, the human clones using stem cells. Will it be in future or it's a myth?
क्लोनिंग तो बहुत पहले से ही चल रही है. डॉली शीप जो क्लोन हुआ था, ये वो. आपकी क्लोनिंग हो रही है नहीं होता, पता नहीं कब होगी. ठीक है, maybe 100 years down the line, I don't know, but
So it's not possible.
नहीं, डॉली शीप क्लोन हुआ है तो भाई तुम भी क्लोन हो सकते हो. You have to convince a scientist. Okay, I don't know what scientist. Chinese लोग बड़े interested होते हैं, ठीक है. They are like creating a lot of things. So go to China and then like, मेरे को please clone कीजिए. So probably they'll be able to clone you.
And if
Sorry,
I may add,
Kamalika,
even if
ma'am,
they,
just to barge in, हाँ.
if,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
मुझे
Please,
ऐसा
please
लगता है
go
कि
ahead.
इसका एथिकल कंसर्न ज्यादा है. हाँ, आई थिंक. हाँ, किसी ने लिखा ना
Of
तमन्ने को.
course. I mean, come on, it's a joke, यार. I mean, you want to clone yourself? Why would you
हाँ,
want to
इट इज
clone
पॉसिबल,
yourself?
पर ये है कि हम लोग एथिकली किसी ह्यूमन का कोई डबल कॉपी जब बनाएंगे या किसी का भी, तो उसका आइडेंटिटी, बहुत सारे अलग इश्यूज है. सिर्फ
Of course.
थियोरिटिकली और साइंटिफिकली पॉसिबल है, ऑफ कोर्स. क्या पता हम
और
करें.
और क्लोन बना भी देंगे तो even if you get cloned with the same gene structure, your personality, your mindset would be different, very different from the clone that you have. So a clone does
Just
not
like
mean that you
twins,
are the same person. Yeah. So
जैसे
I
ट्विन्स
think
होते हैं, ट्विन्स आर क्लोन्स. एक्चुअली ट्विन्स तो क्लोन ही है, एक दूसरे के क्लोन है, पर
they are totally have different personalities.
but thank you, ma'am. It was a
Thank you,
very,
ma'am.
very enlightening session.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much,
you so
everyone.
much, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you tell more about tardigrades in space? How they can
Yes.
survive?
Yeah, so tardigrades बोलते हैं, so tardigrades को बोलते हैं, जैसे आप लोग ने सुना, have you watched this movie, in general I'm asking, ये वाली जो दो आंखों वाली कौन सी मूवी है?
Ant-Man.
वॉली देखी होगी, राइट? सो उसमें एक कॉकरोच होता है, कॉकरोच और रोबोट के साथ एक, ये बहुत प्रिटी मूवी है. इफ यू हैवंट वॉच, प्लीज वॉच वॉल ई. ओके, वॉल ई. सो yeah, what I was saying was, तो उसमें कॉकरोच की कहानी है कि everything is destroyed on earth, everything is finished, but a cockroach survives. And it's a robot, so robot doesn't matter. A cockroach survives. So cockroaches can survive in the harshest environments. And people say, even if the world destroys, a cockroach will survive. But there's something which is much further sturdier than cockroaches are tardigrades. Because what is happening is cockroaches live on the Earth's surface. Tardigrades are something, they are sort of single-celled organisms. Okay, they're not cockroaches which you can see. Tardigrades को microscope के नीचे देखना पड़ेगा. They're single-celled organisms and they live they can also live just at the bottom of the ocean. So for example, if sun or some incident happens that just the entire earth gets burnt and the oceans boil and just burn off, tardigrades will survive because they can survive at the depth of the oceans. They will survive. ठीक है, तो ये अर्थ का तो पता है हमें. स्पेस में अभी तक तो एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता. हो सकता है टार्डिग्रेड्स को स्पेस में ले जाए, फिर हो सकता है सर्वाइव करे. That is a possibility because they're very sturdy.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
people need to do experiments and see, because Earth में तो वो survive करेंगे even if every oceans also fly off, and disappear one day.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
If someone has any question, they can just open their mic or like just take, drop the same in the chat box.
Um,
Yes, Miss Vidya, you were saying something, I guess.
No, actually, this is my first session, so I'm just listening to ma'am and everyone. I don't know what to what to question. It's just I'm listening first time, and
Okay.
it's really interesting, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you have informed us a lot about this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any project which is working on space garbage? Space, when we talk about space garbage, it is not biotechnology. Garbage का मतलब हमेशा bio नहीं होता. When it, especially we talk about space garbage because it's more of electronics as of now, right? है ना space garbage क्या कि space में all metallic instruments, metallic stuff is there और वही space garbage हो जाता है. As of now तो पूरा fly off हो रहा है and people need to be a little more stricter regarding controlling space garbage and what can be done, but not enough efforts are being made in this direction. Yeah,
Ma'am,
it's not
one more
biology.
question. Can medicines be made out of viruses, and can we do some research in space that if medicines could be made of viruses, because viruses are very potent organisms. So I think, as a virologist, you can suggest if there can be any medicine that can be made out of viruses, just like we have from bacteria. Your comments, please.
Not medicines but vaccines like जैसे COVID vaccine है, right? So what among many vaccination types, one of them is जब आप उसको weaken कर देते हैं, वायरस को weak कर देते हैं तो उसका वो वैक्सीन में यूज होता है, right? तो so that becomes vaccines are being used for vaccinations, right? That is one thing. Another thing which people are doing, I also discussed that in the innovations, that people are actually doing that. Or apart from that, when we talk about viruses do not produce metabolites. Bacteria, fungi do produce metabolites, secondary metabolites, ठीक है? उनसे जो secretions होता है, so those bacteria and fungi are more eligible, if I may say so. They can be used more for producing secondary metabolites that can be used, or plants, like I said, talked about metabolic engineering of plants, can be used to produce your any kind of products that you want to use in terms of medicines or other things. But viruses can be used for vaccination, like we can then use them for vaccination purposes. That can be done. How the tardigrades became immortal by stopping their metabolism? No, they are not exactly immortal. Like they are very sturdy because that's how they have been in terms of their structure. So
Because
some of
of
the
the
most
hibernation, I think, ma'am. Hibernation, they hibernate.
some of they are the oldest old, I don't even know if I should call it microorganism, because we call them tardigrades as tardigrades, and they're the oldest species that existed on this earth and can like much sturdier than extremophiles also, even radiodurans or aspergillus kind of microorganisms. So their structure most likely, yeah, you have to understand, and it's a single celled organism. That is how they are. A little more depth into checking out its structure would help as to what is it that makes them so sturdy in different harsh environments. So any more questions?
Then I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, what are the effects which can be seen on a brain when an astronaut goes into space? Like, what are the effects, or is there any kind of research study which is going on upon this particular thing? Like, there must be some
Interestingly, no.
differences observed.
Interestingly, no research has been done on brain. Probably they just look at भाई ठीक से बात तो कर रहे हैं ना, they're mentally okay, so probably they know okay their brain is okay. Anyhow, that's a joke. The point is, specifically brain cells have not yet been used for I mean, of course, brain cells में कैसे research करोगे आप, right? आप physical body में कर सकते हो. And before they go to space, a lot of I mean, not only physical kind of exercises they have to do, but also psychological exercises. So, stress in terms of brain cells has not been studied. I could not find a single study where brain cells were used. Any other part of the body was used, but not brain. And in terms of neuroscience, also, it's a very recent field. So, that is a very interesting question, and people should work on that, or just bring that into the forum. That let's explore the impact of space conditions on brain cells. Nobody has done that. And brain cells का काम actually cells के मामले में भी ना थोड़ा difficult होता है, because brain cells when they grow they start growing neurons. So neurons they start firing up. So that's a very complicated. It's very unlikely different kind of cells that you are growing. They're very different kind of cells that you grow. Neurons grow जाते होने का and the kind of experiments that you do, the kind of setup that you need, very specific surface you need on which the cells grow, the neurons or neuronal kind of formation is happening. It's very interesting. Brain research is a little neuroscience experiments a little different than usual cell based experiments that are done. So I could not find a single study on it.
And also, ma'am, what are some measures which astronauts actually take when they go into space? Because since their muscles don't have to work much, neither their heart has to work much to pump blood to other parts of the body. So there must be some mechanism, or like they must be doing something with whose that they can actually make their muscles work a lot more.
Exercise. That is the only way. So there's a lot of focus, because as I said, within 6 months they will lose bone mass and muscle mass, right? So a lot of focus is there on exercising in the space stations. On Earth also, every day 2 hours minimum they have to do exercises, and in space exercise is a must. Even then they tend to lose weight. So that's why exercising is mandated. They have you must have seen many videos where astronauts exercising on a treadmill. It's a very important part to maintain their body mass. I hope that answers your question.
Definitely, ma'am. And thanks a lot for such a great talk. We got to know a lot of things, a lot of new things, rather.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Most welcome, ma'am. If someone else has any other question, they may just drop it in the chat box so they can unmute their mic. So, ma'am, as far as I can see, we don't have any other queries. So, I guess we should end the meeting here. It was really nice to have you here, ma'am. Plus, I would like to
Thank you so
thank
much.
others who joined and contributed to the discussion. It was
I
really
would like to
enlightening.
thank Futuristic Photons, all of you, Kirti, for inviting me to give this talk. I had a lot of fun, frankly speaking, and when I was also, I had to look up the latest information that was latest research that was happening. I learned a lot, and it's only because of you guys, all of you. Thanks to you that I learned so much. That's why I wished you happy Teachers Day. That you are as much as teachers as and I learned a lot by this event and the questions that you asked. And Kirti and the entire team of Futuristic Photons, thank you so much. This A to Z session that you're keeping on astronomy is a very fabulous event. I think it's wonderful. I'm really enjoying that, and just all the best. Kudos to the entire team and kudos to this effort. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and happy Teachers Day to Kamalika ma'am and Madman sir, both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Teachers Day to everyone. And it was a lovely session, ma'am. Thank you so much for choosing to tell us all about astrobiology. And I hope everyone will go ahead with their learnings from here on. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much, ma'am.
much.
Happy Teachers Day, and I
Thank you.
wish you
Thank
the
Thank
you.
you.
thank you.
I request participants to leave. And with this, we conclude our session. It was really nice to talk to you all. I hope you all are doing good and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
For any queries, please contact at futuristic.photons@gmail.com. I've left the mail ID in the chat box. If you have any queries, suggestion, or anything to